Okay. Oh, he left. He's coming back in. All right, cool. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't even know what number we are in our series right now. But these sessions are being recorded. My name is Jill DaSilva. I am a guest of Calgary UX, and I'm helping facilitate some workshops about UX design. And I have Michelle here, part of Calgary UX, who is going to be our moderator today. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, and she'll let me know if there's anything that you would like for me to cover again or go deeper dive into. We'll spend about an hour together today. I will start sharing my screen. I think we have a couple of new people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this in our chat. So this is a living Google document. I'm just going to copy this link, and you all can have access to this and take a look. I'll paste it in our chat. And so inside this document, you're going to see kind of we have a series right now. We are on October 26th, and then we have a November 2nd, a November 9th, and then a final November 23rd session. So if you are just joining, that's fine. Again, these have all been recorded. If you want to catch up to this, again, since we meet every week, you probably have time to catch up and rewatch the videos. They are posted on YouTube under Calgary UX. And so, yeah, we're working on the UX process. And right now we have a very simple application, a coffee app. And we've gone through in our first session, how to kick off a project. I won't dive too deep into that, but we talked about, what is the UX design process, talking to stakeholders, doing research, competitive and comparative analysis. Let me see if I have my thing. There we go. User research, surveys, interviews, personas, scenarios, user flows. We talked a little bit about sitemaps. In this project, you won't really need one. And wireframing, and this is kind of the process. And then we're going to get into prototyping, and we'll talk a little bit about testing today. And this is, if you want to build a case study out of this experience, you're more than welcome to, or you can just dabble in a few screens yourself just to get familiar with designing and putting on kind of the UX design thinking hat and think about, okay, well, what problem am I solving? Who am I solving it for? And what are the steps? So let's see, I guess last week we got into some low fidelity wireframing, and we did a little bit of designing. And this week we're going to start diving into high fidelity wireframing. And I wanted to open this with a question that I received in the Calgary UX Slack channel. So if you're not familiar with that and you're just found out about the session, there is a fantastic Slack channel that you can join. Michelle, perhaps you have resources or a link for them to join.
Yeah, for sure.
And so anyway, someone was kind enough to reach out between sessions and say that they want to get into UX design, but they're worried that their aesthetic eye isn't that good or not really artistic. And I think the word design and UX design can feel intimidating for people. And I want to encourage you, I am not the most aesthetic designer on the planet. I'm really thinking about features, functions, and flow. And the challenge, though, as an emerging designer, if you're brand new, a lot of times you'll have to do both. You'll have to do UX and UI. It really just depends on the size of the company or team that you're working in, and if you have to wear both hats as a UX designer and UI designer. So one of my tips that I wanted to share with y'all today is to take screenshots of websites and apps and bring them into your design tool and just design on top. I mentioned this in our last session. It's really that kind of practice. Look at some great websites. In fact, there is a I think it's Words. I think it's this one. So this Words goes to, they'll demonstrate some of the best websites of the day, and you can look at some that are kind of doing such a fantastic job in their design. So this is a site that I highly recommend. I'll post it in the chat. And I'll try to remember to put this also in our Google document. Actually, I'll leave it right here, resources here. And okay, so that way you can check that out. So it really just comes with practice. Another thing that helped me with design and layout was actually taking a photography class. That was really helpful. I think there are still probably some courses like used to be lynda.com. I think you can do it through LinkedIn now. Just take a, maybe a typography class or a visual design or even print design that really makes you think about layout and proportion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. But when you're looking at websites, let's, for example, go to, well, this one might be rather unique. But more often than not, if there's a search bar, it's up at the top. And if there's a login or sign up, it's over here. And if it's a profile, it's over here. And then, in the footer, there's usually links to, to connect and things like that. So these are kind of the usual elements that you'll see. And, thinking about designs, this is designing, this right now is a 2-column grid. This right now is a 1-column grid. So having some understanding of even web development, you can go to W3 Schools. And they have a ton of tutorials. And this is where you can go, let's see, HTML and CSS. And what's cool about this is that you can work inside of this web browser and learn the basics of HTML and kind of go through these little exercises. And then you can even learn about CSS. And it's really simple. It's really fun. And it says, try it yourself. So, and it's free. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and I can edit this H2. And I'll just do this here, H2, run. Notice how it changes the size. So I highly recommend W3 Schools, getting an understanding a little bit of at least web design, but they have everything all the way down to like Python and everything else. So take a look at all of this that you can do. So understanding, the reason I bring this up is understanding divs and layouts and how things are built, because as designers, we hand this off to a developer, and the way our designs are set up, we need to be conscientious of the developer and who's building this on the other side. So again, if you want to get better, it's practice. Again, screenshots of the sites you like, and then recreate them in the tool of your choice. And yeah, over and over again. Another one that I wanted to recommend as far as practice goes, if you look up Howard Pinsky on YouTube, let's just go here and we'll go videos. Let's see, Howard Pinsky. Here we go. So hopefully this doesn't play. I just want to go to his actual site. But anyway, you can look up Howard Pinsky. I'll look him up here. And you can follow his videos, and he has a ton of great tutorial videos. So you can come in, and there's oftentimes source files. So if you want to learn more about prototyping or design, and in fact, I just saw a Twitter post from him, and he's going to start working on typography, color, and things like that. So there's always a ton of freebies out there. Sometimes it can feel like a lot of noise because there are almost too many resources, but he's a great speaker. His videos are short and they're easy to digest. So, I wanted to kind of answer this question on our live session today. So here's some notes again. Pay attention to copy, how much copy is there. Pay attention to the calls to action, the layout, colors, button shapes. So every time you're using a website, whether it's, Amazon, or whatever you're using for personal use or an app, pay attention to where things are, and you'll understand more, like I said, if you take the time to recreate it yourself. Another thing that I do, like, I'm just basically copying the Starbucks design for this challenge. But I have a plugin called What Font, and I can come in here and I can tap on this, and it will tell me what the font is, and it will tell me how big and everything else. let's go to, let's just go here. Let's see if I can turn on what font for this. I'll tap here. It's Roboto. It's telling me what it is and how big it is. So you can, and then I can tap on this one. That was 500. This is 400. So, and it's 12 pixels. What's this one? This one's 14. So if you're not sure what a website is using, you can get this Chrome plugin. And I'll put this in our handy list here. And you can always analyze the fonts that are being used inside websites. Now, I will give a caveat to that. The caveat is depending on the CSS and how it loads on the page, there might be CSS on CSS on CSS, which the cascading style sheet, which tells the screen and the computer what to show when and where and what color and what size. Sometimes, depending on how the CSS is done, it may not show up properly, but 99.9% of the time, this what font plugin works really, really well. And I use it a lot, especially if I'm inspired by a particular design. Okay, so I have a couple things pulled up for us today. You know, there's something else that you can read about. I have an article here, 3 ways to improve your visual design skills. This is a great resource as well. And I think it is Dieter Rams who talks about what makes good design. What is good design? And there are basic principles to what makes good design. He's got 10 principles here, and I'm just going to pick any article. So let's take a look at that. Let's scroll through here real quick. So
Jill,
good design
on the chat.
Yeah.
It says, I didn't see any Boolean unite function in Adobe XD for merging shapes. Did I miss something? Figma has it.
Yeah, let me write that down in my notes. Yep, I can show you all that in just a moment. Okay. I'll wrap up this talk about design and what makes good design, since we're talking about high fidelity today. So for Dieter Rams, good design is innovative. It makes the product useful. It's aesthetic. It makes the product understandable. It's unobtrusive. It's honest. It's long lasting. It's thorough down to the last detail. It's environmentally friendly. And good design is as little design as possible. And I think as an emerging designer, especially in visual design, we want to throw a bunch of stuff in there. And so less is more. So when we think about even Apple products or something like that, it's very clean. It's very simple, kind of like a Zen garden in a lot of ways. So, you know, read up a little bit more about examples about Dieter Rams. He's someone worth knowing and worth exploring a bit. Okay, so I'll just throw this in our list as well. Okay. I'm going to be a little, it should go down here. Okay. All right. So let's jump into design. And actually, before I do that, does anybody have questions beyond the Boolean uniting shapes? But anything that you've been working on, perhaps, as we've been going through this series, does anybody have any questions that they've come across that they would like me to try to troubleshoot with them or uncover?
I don't have a question. However, I'm yet to get my Adobe access. I know I filled an Excel sheet for that.
Okay. That would be something. And did you get an email?
Not yet.
Not yet. When did you fill up the spreadsheet?
Before the class started. Before the first class.
Oh, before the first class. I think. And who is speaking right now, if you don't mind?
Nancy.
Nancy. Okay. Did you message us in the Slack channel? Did you message us there too?
No, not yet.
Okay.
If I can do that.
No. Someone else had asked as well. So Nancy, what I'm going to do is, if you can private message or join the Slack channel, I won't be able to troubleshoot that with you right now. because I'm not the one who is handling the licensing. But if you actually even share with Michelle your email address, we'll be in touch with you. So you may not get it solved today, and I apologize for that, but you reach out to us and we'll troubleshoot it after the session.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
My access went to my updates folder, so it's possible it's hiding somewhere in your email, but yeah, feel free to send me.
Yeah, that is true. I'll check it.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Hopefully we can get that solved for you very quickly. So I have two shapes here, and you need to have two shapes selected. Notice over here, this is the question about combining shapes, and you'll find it here over in the right-hand side in the properties panel. And once I have my two shapes selected, I can choose either to connect them, to subtract, to intersect, or to overlap. So you can play a little bit with those. In fact, I'll just show you what that looks like a little bit. I'll do a couple of these, so y'all can see the difference. So I'll do these first two, and I will connect them. I'll do this one, and it will just cut that piece out. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. And for this one, it's going to only leave this piece, I think. Yep, that little piece in the middle. And for this one, it is going to cut out this piece in the middle. So hopefully that answers your question that we had earlier. Let me see who asked that. Greg. Greg, did that answer your question?
He says thank you.
Awesome. So I think, you know, all the tools can do all the things. Knowing where they live is part of the challenge. So, and I'll make sure to, I think I have in our resource list, all the learning resources. So there's a help link, HelpX, and then there's also a lot of tutorials for XD. And I'll just open this real quick so we can look at it together. So this will be all the tutorials: getting started, designing, prototyping, collaborating, design systems. So there's a lot of great resources here for you. And you can kind of pick and choose what you would like to uncover there. And in this one, in the HelpX article, this one dives deeper into, you'll have some more visuals. The ones that I just showed, the site that I just showed you will have tutorials. And so this shapes and objects, the bouillon might have been in one of these. So anyway, there's a lot of great resources built out for y'all. And again, you can find those at the bottom of our working Google Doc. So yeah, any tool questions, you can kind of refer to those resources. I'm happy to answer them too during our sessions, at our kind of closing Q&A, or if you're practicing as we're going. So let's dive into wireframing and high fidelity, unless y'all see any other questions. So yeah, let me know. I'm just going to delete these. Also, I think, sorry, I'll come back to this file one more time. I don't know if I put it at the bottom or the top. There, design checklist. So I'm going to make sure that you all have access to my my working file for these sessions. So I'll update that in just a moment, but it's kind of a work in progress, and it grows as our session continues. So last session, we worked on low fidelity wireframes. And if you remember, I took screenshots of an app that I wanted to emulate, and I created my artboards here. And now I'm just kind of building them out. So one of the things that I did, and it's hard for me to not prototype as I'm designing, because I'm thinking about, okay, does this go there? And I kind of think about the user journey as I'm designing. I'm thinking about, where do they come to first? And then what are the steps in that journey? And in this example, it is, you know, I wanted to do kind of this landing screen. I wanted to get to a listing results page. If you're familiar with e-commerce, this has everything. And then get into a detailed page. So perhaps this hot coffees page. And I always design, I'll bring this over because I'll start designing this a little bit. I'm going to give you all some tips and tricks as I go. So let's take a look here. So I have this quasi home screen that I literally copied off of the Starbucks mobile site. And I just brought in my own kind of imagery. We'll talk about that in a moment. I brought in this little box, and to be able to make this hi-fi, let me change this color for just a moment. I'll bring it here. I took my eyedropper tool on the right-hand side, and I just did this. And so again, if you like colors that you're using from a design that you're inspired by, you can literally use the eyedropper tool and bring those pieces in. And if I know I'm going to be using a color over and over again, I'll probably go ahead and add that color to my little color palette here. And so, yeah, leveraging these screenshots, I'm just designing it myself. I have a main component here, if you remember from our last session, that I wanted to create. So if I made updates on the following screens, I only have to make the update once. So if I wanted to change this, notice it's going to change everywhere. And so I'm going to dive into this piece. So as I'm designing, I'm thinking about what am I reusing over and over again in my design process? And in retrospect, now that I designed this, I'm like, I should have designed these as components. I should have turned this into a component right here, this little circle, because what if later I decide I want a rounded rectangle or something like that? And I know that I'm going to be reusing this over and over again down here. We also, yeah.
There's a comment asking, adding to the color palette is just a shortcut rather than adding the color to the component pane, right?
Sure. There's two different ways to do this. So as I'm thinking about, so I'm going to give you all my stream of consciousness as I think about my own design process. So I have my sketches, I have my low fidelity wireframe, and now I'm ready to make it high fidelity. And in my assets panel, which you can go to by this little library looking piece, this is my current documents assets. And inside here, if I know that I'm going to continue to use this color, I can right click on this and I can say add color to assets. And this is something that we are going to do in just a moment. I'm going to show you how you can leverage this entire panel to make changes across any of your designs. So yeah, if I'm working in short form in the beginning and I don't really have a brand, I'm kind of making up my own brand, I'm probably going to put them here because I just want to grab them very quickly. But if I want to make global changes, I want to make sure that I have this color here, and I'll just go ahead and show you now. I'm going to edit this color and I'm going to make it, let's see. So notice as I'm changing it in real time, it's changing it here. And if I had more instances of that, it would change everywhere that I have this color. So let me just do that one more time. In fact, I'll draw another rectangle here just so you can see. And I could do this a couple different ways. I can tap there. And I just want y'all to be aware of where things are in the tool. And I can also just go here. So now if I decide that I want to edit this color, I'm going to say edit, maybe I want to do a darker color. I can come over here and pick that and notice how it changed it in both places. So the assets panel is more of a global control, and this color palette is more of an individual element that you're working in for control. So did that help answer that question? Kind of the difference there. I definitely wanted to get into that topic, so thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. And actually, so I have my home screen, have my menu. I have my, I'm just going to call this menu list. Okay, so I have 3 screens right now. And, the way that I work, I might do a little bit of this and I might do a little bit of that, and then I'm going to come in. But let's think about, okay, I've built out my home screen. I have my navigation piece here. I'm going to show y'all what I did is I did go ahead and make this into an overlay. So in a light prototyping sense, I can come in here. Let's delete that. If I'm so I went from design mode to prototype mode, and I want to test out my menu here. So this is, if I look at my properties panel over here, notice that it's changed for prototyping. So I'm going to do overlay, and an overlay gives me this dotted line. And I want this animation, I want it to slide left. So, and you can play with timing and things like that. So check this out, y'all. I have my piece here. I'm going to show y'all how to put in video tomorrow, but I have this video going. I'm sorry, next week I'll show y'all. And I have now this kind of accordion or this fly out menu. And let's see, will it come up again? I think I need to make it go back. So one of the things I did is I've turned this into a component. So we talked about components last time. I turned my menu into a component. Now I could have made an extra screen for this, but instead I created a component and I said menu detail is what I called this one. And if I go into my prototype mode from menu detail, if I tap on that, it's going to go back to the default state. So right now it's going into a loop. And if I want to test this out again, I want to make sure I bring it back to this piece. So we're touching on prototyping today. We're also going to touch on high fidelity. So let me hit my play button here. Here's my hamburger menu. If I tap on this, it's going to bring me to this menu. And if I tap on this, it's going to bring me back. And if I tap out here, it's going to bring me back to the home page. So what's great about overlays and this prototyping features, as a UX designer, I would have had to have created multiple screens to make this happen. And it's hard because sometimes we want the background to be different. We want the background to change. And so if I come to this menu list page, because this is part of my main component, notice it's already got the overlay set in. So if I'm on this menu list page, I can still come here and I can go back and go back again. So, and I've only had to use this one screen. Normally, again, I would have to repeat that. I would have to have this 1, 2, 3 times because I would want to show the different change states of this menu. Because this screen is longer, I'm just going to go into my design mode. I'm going to extend this a little bit. And I have a background blur. I have an extra layer here. So let's try that one more time. I'm just going to take a look. You know, I'm testing my stuff out as I go. There's my list. Oh, looks like it didn't go all the way down. Oh, because I need to change from here. It needs to be part of my component. So that's why you're not seeing that reflection. Anyway, so I'm working forward. I've got my home design. I've got my menu list design, but now I'm ready to kind of make this more high fidelity. The way that I might do that is working with the fonts that are here. So right now I'm using Adobe Clean, but let's use something else. Let's go to, let's do Roboto, just because it's easy. Actually, no, let's do Poppins. Yay, Poppins. Okay, so this is where I can add this to my assets panel. So I'm going to add my character style. You'll see Poppins show right there. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and add this to my assets panel. And what I want to do actually is now I want everything that was Adobe Clean before. I'm just going to change this. Well, let me show you this. I can highlight on canvas. And so everywhere that lives, which is only a couple places, will now be updated. So I'm going to update this to Poppins, edit, enter, and notice that it changed across. Now, because of the different size, I need to reduce this just a little bit. Beep, boop, beep. Because in our previous session, I mentioned you can start with grayscale, you can start with any typeface, and then you can leverage your assets panel to make that change. So I have Adobe Clean like this. I'm going to highlight on canvas everywhere that it exists. I'm going to change this to Poppins as well. And we have Poppins. And it's a much larger font, even though it's the same size technically. Notice it did create some changes here. And which one do we have here? We've got Adobe Clean. Let's do the same thing here. Now I can tap on this and it will, if I have this selected, it will update it. So add character style here. We've got Adobe Clean. I want this. Well, let's see where it's being used again. So y'all can see that highlight on canvas. There we go. It's going to change it in all those places. Edit. And there we go. It's changed in every place that I had it. So you can really make quick work by leveraging the assets panel here. Let's talk a little bit about, let me look at my agenda. Components and replacing components. So I created a little library. You may not be familiar with Creative Cloud libraries, but one of the reasons I enjoy Adobe tools is because I might be working with print design, and I might be, for our brand, I might be working on business cards. I might be working on a website, and I'll show you an example in just a moment. And I might be working in Illustrator and in Photoshop, and I might want to, instead of like downloading, uploading, or copying and pasting, I can leverage Creative Cloud libraries to do that. I'm going to open up my Illustrator. And today I just made a very simple library. And I'll show you how this was done. Here we go. So I have these elements here, and maybe I want to change the color. Just so we can see a difference here. So I'm going to make this kind of an orange pumpkin spice. Okay. And it didn't really do the thing. Let's do it here. Let's go to here. Okay. Why no work key? Let's try that again. Leave that at black. I'll duplicate this. I'm going to come into here and I'm going to change the color. Is it working? Oh, it's for some reason it's not giving me the colors that I want. So we'll come back to this in just a moment. But I was able to create this. Let me bring in some other colors. I'm troubleshooting Illustrator right now, y'all. There we go. Okay. I can bring this color into my library. So, I can go back to my library here. I can say create new library. Instead of doing that, I'm just going to tap on the library that I just created. I have this color selected. I can hit this plus icon and I can add this color into my library. Notice what happens here. I'll just go into my coffee app. This color got added in. And here I have my icons. I've got this coffee logo. I've got just the icon if I want. I have some images here. So I can leverage this Creative Cloud library. Now watch this. If I change this color, I'm going to change it to blue. Okay. And hit save. Save. Okay. And then I'm going to change this there to that blue color. Okay. So I'm editing this piece. So I'm changing the library. So it works. CC Libraries works a little bit different in Illustrator than in XD, but notice it changed it immediately here. So I can use this library that I created in Illustrator and bring in things from the assets panel. So if I want to now, I can just double click this and I can choose this and it'll change that color. So I'm going to go back because I want to keep it at black, but I can also use this library. Let's see how this works. It may or may not work very well. I'm going to just create, make this a little bit longer. Actually, let's do just a coffee and see what happens. So I'm going to bring this in and I have my little coffee icon and notice how it changed in my other headers here. So depending on how that goes, I was a little worried that it may not work well, but let's go ahead and try that again. Let's try this piece. Oops, come on, you know you want to. So now we have it in this section. So you can decide, you want it to highlight blue. Let's see, go here. Let's do this one. Oh, sorry, y'all. I want it in there. Let's see if I can get it in there. It's not highlighting for me. But hopefully you get the idea that you can bring in elements from a Creative Cloud library and have that, again, cascade across, especially since this is a main component. So now I have kind of my coffee icon here, but maybe, you know what, maybe I want this. I'm going to delete this. And I actually want to create a squarish piece. I'm going to bring this down here, inside here. I want to see if I can get this to work. So I'm going to bring this in. There we go. So there's the whole piece added in there. I can also play with this a little bit. And I can make this bigger if I want. There we go. And did it work across? It did not, because I didn't make it a main component. But anyway, hopefully I'm going to Command Z that back. Let's go back here. And let's bring in just our little coffee cup. Okay, so I was able to bring this in from another library, and I'll show you a working example. So taking a break from the coffee application, this is an actual client project, and we leveraged the plugin called Quick Mockup, and we brought in all the elements from the website design and the mobile design. And we had first had our clients work out the content, and then we were able to put in the content and start working from this grayscale, and then slowly working up to high fidelity. And we used components, we used our CC libraries, and then we turned it into this working item here. And we were able then, once we designed it here, we were able to go into Wix and design it ourselves. And this is the working site. And then again, so when we think about the UX process, we did our stakeholder interview. We understood what the goals were. We understood what kind of copy we wanted to have on the site. We worked from grayscale with the copy. And then as we were developing the brand, the logo, and the identity, we were able to kind of bring in those colors and typography into the website. So, and that's what I would be doing here. So I'll show you also in this example. If I go to my libraries, you can see I have this Code Comply library, which has all of the assets that we used in our design. And a lot of these were made inside of Illustrator and brought in to XD via library. There's a lot of great tutorials, and if y'all have more questions about Creative Cloud libraries, I'm happy to share those resources with you. I'm going to close this file out for now. And another thing I wanted to show you is this, again, Coffee app library. Now, if I go into, if you're looking for images and you're not sure what to pull, you can go to Adobe Stock and you can do free. And you can type in coffee and you can see all kinds of things here. You can do images, you do video, you can do all kinds of different choices here to pull in. If I want to, I can click on this one. It's going to open up a thumbnail. I can say save to library, and it'll save automatically to my coffee app. If I need to, I can manage it and I can decide where else it needs to go, but that's exactly where I want it to go. And then if I come back over here, notice here's my image. And I'm just going to drag that into my images folder here in this library. So I can work in and out of a lot of different Adobe tools just by having these libraries open. And in fact, if I came into Photoshop, I would have the ability, I'll just do new. And I can go to libraries and I can go in here and I can open my coffee app. Let me make this a little bit bigger and see everything is already there. I can bring this in if I want to. And that's okay. And I can work with this element. So I'm able to, like I said, move in and out of Illustrator, Photoshop, and XD just by using this library. Let me show you something else that's kind of cool that goes outside of libraries, but actually this thing first, sorry, y'all. I also created a library based off of this coffee app file that I got from UI 8. And I was able to publish this library. And now that it's here, if you think about working in teams or anything else, I can invite people to be editors or just consumers of this library. Again, if you're working in it, you're most likely going to be working in a team. So understanding how to leverage libraries is helpful, and how to disperse those so that they can consume them. So anyway, I'm in here and I like this orange color, and I'm going to go here and I can tap there, and there's my orange color from this other library. So you can use elements from multiple libraries in one file just to speed up your design process. Okay, I want to show y'all something else, but before I move on, any thoughts or questions about that? I know it's pretty fast. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to at least kind of pique your interest about CC libraries and how to leverage them. All right, I'm going to keep going. So one of the things I did today is I took a bunch of screenshots from the Starbucks site, and I'm going to bring them into XD. And I'm just going to tap on this icon, and I'm going to bring this into here. And notice I took that screenshot straight from there. But it's not really looking the way that I want it to. I can expand it a little bit, but it's not exactly the way I wanted it. So what I'm going to do, and I'll show you what this image actually looks like. I'll just do space bar. So this is what the image looks like. Notice it has this kind of white band around it. Now this automatically creates a mask, but maybe I want to do something different. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say edit in Photoshop. And it automatically opens it in Photoshop for me, and I'll zoom in a little bit. And I'm just going to use my selector tool and lasso tool, and I'm going to say select similar. No, I don't want to do that. Let's do, let's do this one. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do select. I'll go ahead and do select similar just for speed here. And even though it's going to get that white piece there, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I can do delete, and then I can do image, and I can do trim, image, trim. Where are we at here? Trim, sorry, y'all. Okay, and I'm just going to hit enter. It's going to remove any excess pieces here. I'm going to hit save, and it's going to automatically update this. So now, if you look at this, it no longer has the white background anymore. So I was able to bring that into Photoshop and make that edit pretty easily. You know, if I wanted to, I could get even more fancy. I could come in here and I could play with kind of the look and feel. I'm just going to show y'all kind of the magic right here. All right, there we have our hot coffee. I'm going to make this really bright just so you can see the difference. Again, if I hit save, it's going to automatically update it inside of my XD file. So you can work very quickly inside of XD and do some quick edits in Photoshop and have it automatically apply here inside of your design. So I want to show y'all that edit with Photoshop. Let's look back at my list. We got about 10 minutes left here. Creative Cloud, prototyping. Okay, Another thing that I wanted to show you all, when you're thinking about high fidelity and designing, again, the look and feel is really up to you, and just think of this as a kind of a playground right now. But if I am working on accessibility, so let's imagine that I'm going to make this not accessible. I'm going to change this background color. So I'm going to change it to this. And I'm going to see if I can break the accessibility here. Fill, I'm going to make this white. That's surely going to break because that contrast is really bad. I'm going to go to a plugin of mine called Stark, and it's a freemium. But if I want to make sure that I'm thinking of accessibility, look how that fails. So if I want to, I can go here now, and that's definitely failing. I'm going to turn it back to black, and now it's passing. So, very important from a usability perspective to think about, how do I make sure that my colors and contrast are accessible to people. There's also another one for color blindness. So they have a couple different choices here. You can't do all of them, again, because it's a freemium, but you can do a lot of them. And I do it on designs a lot, especially when clients are like, but I like this color. I'm like, well, we should run it through Stark first to make sure that it is accessible. Okay. Back to my list here. So let's talk about fundamental prototyping. I showed you all this overlay here, but now if I want this, and I'm just going to cheat here, I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And I'm going to bring this in. So I'm just going to use a screenshot so we know that we're going to a different screen. So from my home screen, if I go into the prototyping mode, I'm coming in through my menu. And then from the menu page, once I go to here, let's go to menu detail. I can go back, but if I go to all products, I want it to take me here. And I don't want that to be an overlay. There we go. And it's going to take me to my menu list. And I want my menu list, I want this to go here. So let's take a look and see if my prototyping worked out okay. But really, it's just as simple as dragging this and connecting it and choosing what transition you want. You can even preserve scroll position, because if they're coming in from another page and they're far down, maybe you want to preserve that scroll position. But for now, we're just doing basic prototyping. We'll go into more advanced prototyping in our next session. So let's start this from home. Let's take a look. I've got this. I can go here. I want to go to all products. It's taking me there, which is great. And I want to go to hot coffee, and there it is. And so, yeah, my prototype worked out pretty well. I think that I saw some black spots, some black borders on my design, and I think I know what caused it. The width of my home page is 414. My menu list page is 414. What page is this? That is also 414. So let's go here. And do I not have a fold in the right spot? I do. And this one, I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up because that might be messing up my design. So let's try that again and see if I can get rid of those black borders on the side. Here, all products. Yeah, I'm still seeing this black border here. So let's see what our fold height is. 667. There we go. That's what's wrong. So my viewport height was not the same. And the reason I show you all this is because you might be wondering, why does it look funny? And it's a common error, especially in the beginning. So the viewport height, if you recall, is our fold line. And so let's try that one more time. So I'm going to preview. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to go to all products. Notice now, because my viewport height is set and they all have the same viewport height, I don't have that black outline anymore. And now let's imagine I want to share this for user testing. This is my home screen. I'm going to tap on that. And I'm just going to say home screen. And what's cool about this, now that I have that home screen set, I can now drag these pieces around. If I want to reorganize my artboard, I can bring these down here. And I can do this again if I want to. Maybe I just want to test this page. So I can call this my menu list page. Oops. Okay. So now I have two different prototypes. And if I go to my share mode, it's going to show only those screens. Notice it grays out everything else. And I can go over here, and if I want to, I can decide if I want design review. Now we're going to go into some of these more deeply in our later sessions, but let's imagine I want to do user testing. This is where I would go to choose that. And I'm going to create that link. It'll make that for me. And when I go into my user testing view, as soon as that link is ready, just tap on that. And it opens it automatically to this home screen. If I want to exit full screen, I can, but this is fully clickable through a browser, and I can come in here and I can go through my prototype and I can test it out like that. So you don't have to present from XD. Whoever you're using user testing with doesn't have to have XD. They just need this link. So I can also create a flow. It'll still be linked, but notice it's narrowed out this page because this only links with these pages. And I can create another one, and I'll just do design review so you can see what that looks like. And I would use design review if I'm going to collaborate with stakeholders, with team members. And let's click on that. And now the home screen, when I start the prototype, is this menu page. But notice it is still clickable. And I can go to my hot coffee. And I can go back to all products if I want to. So in the design review, this is where I can come in and I can leave comments like add the logo with the word mark. And I can still go to full screen preview with this. If I hit escape, it's going to bring me back. So it's really up to you in the context. And like I said, we'll go deeper into these other ways of sharing in 2 sessions from now. Let me see if there's anything else that I was dying to share with y'all. Yeah, that's it. We did it right at time. I am going to stop talking now and see if you all have any questions for me. And I'm copying the link to this source file. And I'm just going to put this at the bottom of this. Additional resources. Working file. If I can type. There we go. Okay, so y'all have this now in our Google Doc. And yeah, so next, I'll just talk about what we're going to be covering. We're going to go into deeper interaction design. We're going to talk about scroll groups, drop downs, hamburger menu, which I already covered a little bit, using video inside of your designs. I'll talk about Lottie animation, embedding sound, and prototyping with voice. I may even show you all some really cool parallax and auto animate examples in our next session. And then the session after that, we're going to talk about exporting, sharing, a little bit of what I showed you here. And in our very last session on the 23rd, I'm going to answer any questions you have about a UX design career, what makes a great UX portfolio, whatever it is you have. And then part of this this whole session is if you're playing along and you're doing some designs week by week with us, you can create something and share to Behance, and you will have the opportunity to win 1 year of Creative Cloud. So wanted to make sure that that was mentioned, so you all might feel motivated to play around and create the simplest of prototypes or the most complicated of prototypes for this workshop series and publish it to Behance. And it's really simple. I'll show you all how to do that when we get closer to the end. But notice I can publish my prototype right now straight to Behance. So it's super simple to be able to do that. So I'm going to stop my share and see if I can see your faces. Ray, it looks like you may have a question.
Hi, Jill.
Hi.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the session. These sessions have been great.
You're welcome.
I'm there. I'm a new XD user, and I use it mainly for. I'm planning to use it mainly for website development, right? So I'm wondering if you could offer some insight. With websites, you have to consider different screen sizes, right? I guess also with apps between phone sizes and tablet sizes, right? So what's either best practice or what's the workflow like for? Do you create a separate project for each screen size? Can you bring over, like for prototyping, the workflow between screens, can you bring that over between screen sizes?
You can, you absolutely can. And if y'all don't mind, Luis and Michelle, if we can go over just a few minutes, I'll definitely share my screen here. And I will, I'll show you something, Ray. Let's see. Apologies while I pull this up. Okay. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Okay. So in this example, hopefully it'll open quickly. This is a medical use case, and I'm happy to share the source file with you all. This has a presentation in it. It also has mobile. It also has desktop, and I'm able to create all these different flows. So I have the patient experience kind of in a user flow order with the desktop experience. So you absolutely can have both and separate prototype links all in one file. And in fact, I highly recommend it, especially if I am doing responsive design. I definitely want to design side by side so I don't forget anything.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
But so when you create workflows for those mobile screens, will they automatically, or maybe not automatically, but is there an easy way to apply them to the desktop screens as well, so you don't lose your place, for example?
Yes, I
Or
think
do
I
you
understand
have
your
to
question.
do you have to recreate them through the desktop screens as well when you're prototyping, the way you were showing earlier?
Yeah, so let's take their high fidelity here for a second. Perhaps I want to go mobile first, which I usually go desktop first, to be honest. But if I want to, I can have my responsive resize turned on, and I can turn this on, and it will automatically do this. Now, what I need to do is make sure that I'm fixing some of these things. I can do manual, and I can say, it's going to stick left or right. So you can manually do it, but majority of the time it does pretty good job on the first try. So, this one, I just need to extend out a little bit more, but notice it kept these to the left and the right as well. And this one, I can do manual, and I can say fixed width and don't keep it there. And, I can play around with this and where that sits. So there might be a little bit of cleanup to do, but,
yeah, I mean, that's great. That's exactly what I was thinking about, because when you're designing for responsive designs, right, you're trying to figure out how the images would move when you switch between screen sizes. No, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great question. And I always design side by side, and I always do desktop first, and then I do mobile because it's so much longer. And then I leverage responsive resize when I need it, and it does a pretty darn good job of resizing images and things like that. I can show y'all something else real quick. And I think this is a great example. There's one of the original tutorials in XD. I want you to be able to see kind of what this really does look like. I'll just do this thing real quick. I'll show you, do this, and this, and then I'm going to duplicate this blog page. Hopefully y'all can see. I'll zoom in, oops. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Okay, so zooming in here, I'm going to select this piece and I'm going to do responsive resize, and I'm going to expand this out. Look how it resizes that picture.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Isn't that cool? And
Yeah.
then it also carries on the repeat grid that I
Right.
created as well. So yeah, but sometimes, like I said, you might have to finagle a few things,
Right.
but majority of the time it does a pretty good job. Good,
Yeah,
great
it gives you
question.
a great foundation for checking how your designs would look, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I'm hoping you could keep this in mind when you talk about sharing the project, because when you're sharing with clients, sharing these designs with clients, it's a challenge sometimes to show them both the desktop and the mobile screens, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks. Thank
Yeah,
you
you're
for the answer.
welcome. Oops. Somehow I have an auto zoom on my thing. Any other questions before we wrap up our session today?
Celia had a question. I'm not sure if she feels like it was answered or not. She was saying, can you make responsive designs in XD itself, or do they have to be separate flows for different sizes?
Separate flows for separate sizes. And then I think the other question I wanted to add on to that with the raised question, know your demographic, know what type of web browser they're using, know what size of a screen they're using, know the phone size. That can kind of help you all figure that out. But yeah, for all the different sizes that you have, you'll need different screens for that for your prototype. There are a few tools that will let you kind of export to code, and I'll put those resources in there. But it is not code technically. These are still just screens set in XD. So it's not coded responsibly so that when you go to user test, if they're on a phone, it'll just be a phone size, or if they're on a desktop, it'll be a desktop size. You'll have to share out those different experiences with your user test group. Hopefully that helped answer your question, Cecilia. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think we're wrapped up for today. Again, hopefully you all join that Google Doc, join the Slack channel. The Slack channel, if you have questions as you are working through your design and working out this your project, message us on Slack, and I'm happy to give you that support. And looking forward to next week, because we're going to do a lot of fun interaction stuff inside of Adobe XD. And hope you'll have a good rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Jill. We really appreciate everything that you're sharing with us.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate your time and hanging out with us. I love this community. It's such a very kind and a supportive community. So hopefully you all are connecting on LinkedIn. Hopefully you're connecting in Slack, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Awesome.